my pleasure to be here today. Just a quick introduction. I've been about 20 plus years in the energy consulting sector. I worked with a number of these esteemed organizations and worked with state utilities, private companies, and so on. So it's a very interesting topic today, and thanks very much to all my panelists. The way I thought I'll do this discussion is to focus on some near-term issues which India faces. And then there's a larger global theme as well, which is on decarbonization. So starting with I think the near-term issue, which I see as far as India is concerned, is that our demand growth has been really growing fast. And especially post-COVID, we have seen this significant, bounce back of demand. The peak demand is growing at over 8% per year. And given this scenario, and given that our capacity addition requirements are so large, okay, do we see that supply and demand will catch up with each other in a, say, 2027 to 2030 kind of time frame? So that was one of my initial first questions. And if I may, just pose this question to Mr. Rajput from the CEA. Is he on the panel? Is Mr. Rajput? He's not there on the panel? Oh, sorry. Okay. All right. So that, I think we just heard Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad talk about the sharp growth and so on. So I think that's one key point on whether we'll be able to meet the power demand given the significant additions which are needed. But let me just switch the point to transmission, because I think transmission is going to be one of the key requirements for meeting this power requirement in the country, especially evacuating the renewables and the renewable capacity. What we are hearing is that, while till 2027 or 2028, the CTU connections are all booked, for transmission capacities. So if I may just, sir, ask you on the transmission connections and how do we see that panning out? What is the real situation on the ground? And do you think, how can we address this? How can we ensure that we have enough transmission capacities to evacuate this renewable power?
Thank you. So, good afternoon to everyone. As far as the transmission part is concerned, because it is a very well-known fact that we are talking about the energy transition, energy security, sustainability in an affordable fashion. And the target is to reach the non-fossil fuel capacity of around 500 gigawatt by the year 2030, for which the transmission as well as the evacuation system has been planned and it is published. And based upon the capacity which are going to adapt in a phased manner, the transmission implementation is also happening. Because since in the previous session, it has been highlighted that the time period of commissioning of the solar or wind is very short, gestation period is short. So the transmission is taking up ahead of generation as per the policy. And the implementation is already taking place. There is no bottleneck or congestion as far as the power transfer is concerned, from whether it is the renewable energy or maybe in the conventional zones. You can see from the power market also, it is almost a single price is coming in majority of the occasions. So transmission is already going ahead, and accordingly the various types of technologies are also keeping, because transmission is a linear activity. It involves the rights of way, land acquisition. So the technology shelters are there. We can also discuss later on. But as far as the evacuation and transfer of power to the bulk load center is concerned, from the resource rich regions, so there is no congestion, there is no gap in the evacuation system. It is matching with the evacuation, this capacity addition program itself.
So do you see with this significant growth in renewables, the pipeline which is there, transmission going forward, say in a 2027 or around time frame, you think that could be an issue, or you think that will be addressed as well?
As I already told, because transmission is a linear activity, so it involves the three challenges. One is the getting the right of way for laying up the transmission line. Second is getting the land for establishment of the new touch point or the substations. And third is the contractor's capability and the capacity. This is the three things. But with the help of the policy and the conducive regulatory framework and support from both the central as well as the state government and administrations, this transmission is going forward as
you don't think it is going to be a constraint?
There is not such challenges. The supply chain issues are there, but that is also getting addressed in a gradual fashion.
Okay. Mr. Goyal, if I may just come to you, and you've been with the CERC, and you've probably also seen the transmission sector. I mean, you've seen it as a regulator. But one of the landmark things we did at CERC, which you did at CERC, was the GNA, General Network Access. Can you just tell us how that has really helped the power sector, or how will it help the power sector? So that is one thing we could discuss.
Thank you, Santosh, and thank you, ET, for inviting me here. So you asked me about the GNA. Personally, during my tenure in CRC, so I was involved in drafting and then getting this regulation finalized. And I think it's a path-breaking regulation that has been made. So people who are aware, earlier what used to happen was that whenever you wanted to, say, schedule your power, you had to take different kind of open accesses. There were long-term open access, medium-term open access, short-term open access. So with GNA, it has been done away with. Say any distribution company or a bulk consumer, they have to just take a GNA. And once the GNA is given to you, then you can use any contract, and basically based on your own merit order dispatch and what you think is the right contract to operate at that particular time. So now, irrespective of the contract, you have the GNA and you can draw power through it. In order to make sure that people do take GNA, and there is also provision for TGNA, that is a temporary GNA, but the charges in temporary GNA has been kept 10% over the normal GNA. And the reason for this is that we require a good estimation of the GNA so that the transmission planning can be done adequately. And then if you are drawing power over and above GNA plus TGNA, then the charges are 25% over the normal your GNA charges. So that is as far as your draw side is concerned. Now earlier what used to happen was the generators, they had to take the connectivity, and then also, but the connectivity did not ensure evacuation. But now in the new system, which are also like the GNA regulation, which also cover this connectivity. So for the installed capacity, the generator, a new generator or a RE generator, they have to take the GNA. Sorry, they have to take the connectivity for the installed capacity. And once they are given the connectivity, then that is treated as a deemed GNA, and then it's automatically evacuation can take place up to the installed capacity. So these are the few things, I mean, GNA will be changing, and this is a step towards greater open access, because now you are not dependent upon the type of contracts, but once you have the GNA, I mean, then you can draw power from any of the contracts, schedule power from any of the contract, I think.
Thank you very much. I think it's making a big difference to the sector. We have Mr. Rajput also, who's joined us just now from CEA. Yeah, welcome, sir. I'll come to you later in the sequence. So, Mr. Chaudhary, if I may just come to you, NHPC, CMD NHPC. Hydro is going to be an extremely important, resource for the power system going forward. Not only is it clean, but it's also very important to balance the grid, especially when you have so much of renewables. Of course, the key question remains as to how much hydro can we really add, say up to 2030 or 2032, okay? What's realistically possible? We've already got 45 or thereabouts gigawatts of hydro. But how much more do you think we can really add?
As you have explained, thank you very much. The hydro power, hydroelectric power project is very important to support the present day addition of the renewable energy, especially from solar and wind, the intermittent nature of so much of capacity in the grid. So hydro is very much required, and to sustain, for sustainability of the grid, sustainability, to fulfill the demand, not only hydro, the storage through the pumped storage scheme are very much required. Presently, around 45 gigawatt hydro potential have been developed. By 2030, it is planned that 67 gigawatt will be added. And I will share with you, out of that, our share, NHPC share is around 7 gigawatt hydro installed capacity. And by 2030, we are going to add around 9 gigawatt, 9.3 gigawatt capacity addition out of the total planned 67 gigawatts. Thank you.
Since you touched upon pump storage as well, PSP, and there is a lot of hope on PSP that it will meet the storage needs. But do you think that the plan, that the requirement of CPSP will actually be met on the ground? Do you think that those targets or those aspirations we have will be met?
Pumped storage development is very much required. It is need of the hour. But so far, we have only around 4.7 gigawatt of pumped storage scheme. Out of that also, 2 projects are not in operation in Gujarat. So we have very ambitious plan to add 26, to achieve 26 gigawatt of pumped storage capacity addition. One of the most proven and longer duration storage scheme is the pumped storage. And hydro and pumped storage, they have very other advantages. Apart from the storage, energy storage, they have so much of advantage that you can store the energy in megawatts. You can store the energy for 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours. So that much, which battery will not provide you the storage. So that's why, and the ramp up, ramp down, the grid support, the life of the pumped storage scheme is 50 years, 60 years, or even more than that. So, but the pumped storage has its own challenge. The challenge is we are facing. We are working on almost 11 gigawatt of pumped storage scheme in various stages, and we are facing a lot of challenges. The land acquisition, the environment and forest clearance. It is so lengthy process. The other clearances for hydro project, although the government has in 2023 the pumped storage, for promotion of the pumped storage plant, the Ministry of Power has issued various promotional guidelines. So the quick clearance of the DPR, the water availability is one of the biggest challenge for filling the pumped storage and topping up the pumped storage reservoir. Geological challenges, the law and order problem, these are the public opposition, these are the things which the pumped storage are facing. But I will tell you one positive aspect. In 2008, 9 or 10, so many hydro projects were allotted to the private developers, with the intention that the private investments are very much required, because only CPSUs cannot develop the huge potential required for the hydro development. So many projects were allotted to the private developers. But due to the various problems and long gestation period, the private developers could not come up with the development of, come up with the expectation of development of hydro project. But for the pumped storage scheme, the situation is reversed. Very encouraging. The various private developers have come forward and they are going ahead with the construction of the pumped storage scheme. Even before DPR clearance, they are getting some sort of clearance or permission from the CA and CWC, and they start the work. So they are moving nicely. So private investments are coming for pumped storage scheme, and I am very much hopeful that it will be fulfilled.
Okay, thank you. There's much need of the hour, I would say. Mr. Jha, if I can just come to you. PFC, of course, is one of the leading power sector financing agencies. And I think as compared to other commercial banks, you really understand the sector issues, the technologies, and you're one of the early lenders for new technologies and new types of projects. What are your plans to support the energy transition? You know, and as particularly if you can throw some light on the new technologies which are there, like battery storage or green hydrogen, you know. So what is PFC's plans? How much lending lines do you have earmarked for these areas?
First of all, let me thank you for inviting in this summit. As regards to PFC's lending, especially with the energy transition, we have various products. I think whatever be the project, they need money. And as Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad, Chairperson CA, has said, the financing has to be quick and cheap. So in that category, I think we qualify in that particular part, that we are able to process the loan in a quicker time, and also our interest rate is quite competitive. But with respect to the energy transition, is the same thing. Rupee term loan is the main thing. But of late, the requirement has come because of SECI says that they need some kind of guarantee, and other agencies which are renewable energy implementing agencies, they need some kind of guarantee. So we have developed a product called letter of undertaking, which will replace a bank guarantee, and which is acceptable to those REIAs. And we are also issuing letter of comforts to the developer, who then they can avail the supply of equipments from the supplier on opening of letter of credit. So these are the standard products which are generally used for all projects, including renewable energy projects, non-fossil fuel projects. Now, as far as the new technology is concerned, let me just tell you one thing. As Mr. Chaudhary has said, that a lot of private sector developers have come up with the pump storage projects. Around 4 years back, when Greenco was coming up and wanted to develop pump storage, nobody was understanding in the financing sector that what is a pump storage project mean. And we are the first one to sanction them. And that's how they moved forward. And that project is going to get commissioned in June. So that's how we look at the new technology. We look at the energy transition. This is an example. Again, green hydrogen. Very recently, we have sanctioned a loan for green ammonia, which is coming up in Oman, not in India. Because in India, I think green hydrogen or green ammonia is yet to take some kind of time before it is established that it is commercially viable. Whereas internationally, there is a market, but in India, it is yet to get established whether it is a refinery or some other fertilizer companies. So we have sanctioned for green ammonia. And then the kind of energy transition is like we are the largest lender in renewable energy sector. That much I can tell you. That we have something like, we have sanctioned cumulatively 2.8 lakh crore in renewable energy sector. And we have disbursed around 1.2 lakh crore. And outstanding is around 65,000 crore as of 31st August. So our focus is there that we wanted to be a big contributor toward the financing of renewable energy sector or energy transition. And intent is that in a gradual process, because we also understand your initial question was when Mr. Rajput was not there, that how we are looking at, because the demand is growing very fast, and what would be our energy security. So as you know that Government of India has also said that we'll be adding some coal-based power stations, and we'll be supporting that. But during the course of time, as per the Honorable Prime Minister's Panchamrit thing, that 2017 net zero emission, we are completely aligned with that, and we also understand there will be a huge fund requirement, something like 15 trillion US dollar by 2070, and Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad has also said that around 46,000 crore by 2030 to add renewable energy. We are completely geared to meet that. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Mr. Mendonça, if I may come to you. As Siemens is one of the leaders in technologies related to electricity and energy in general, perhaps if you could share with us, what are some of the technologies Siemens is present in, and as far as these technologies are concerned, how can they help in the energy transition as far as India is concerned? Which technologies are probably more closer to commercialization and which can benefit the energy transition?
Well, thank you, and thank you very much for having me today and having Siemens Energy in this very important event. So in Siemens Energy, I start saying that we invest more or less 1 billion euros per year in R&D, research and development. And all this R&D that we invest is fundamentally on the decarbonization and energy transition. And when we do this for the existing portfolio, and we're also looking forward to new portfolio elements that we can have. We have seen that many organizations say that around 50%, 50, of the technologies required for the energy transition fully is still to be developed. So there is a lot of innovation to be happened. There is a lot of money that is required for doing so. And of course, we cannot do it alone. We do it a lot in partnerships with other companies, academies, and customers as well. When we look to the investments that we do in the conventional portfolio and the new portfolio, maybe I can just bring to as an illustration in the areas that we have as focus, like power generation. In power generation, we have been investing a lot of money to increase the efficiency of our gas turbines. So we have already the most efficient turbine in the world. So how much energy we can take out of the gas. Of course, India is not a so strong country in the gas, but natural gas has been seen as the transition fuel in the energy transition. And we have been investing a lot. We are seeing a lot of countries investing there. And what we are doing additionally to increase the efficiency of our turbines is to prepare these turbines to be hydrogen ready. So most of our turbines today, when they leave the factory, they already can work with a blend of green hydrogen and natural gas to the point that we go to 100% operation green hydrogen. In the sense that, one developer, one investor today that implement a new gas-fired power plant will not get stranded with its assets 10 years down the line because there is no more gas or gas is not anymore something to be used. We can apply 100% green hydrogen to re-electrify what we have produced from the renewable. This is one example that we have in the generation side. When we go to the transmission space, I think the main, technology that we are very much focused in is on the HVDC, so direct current transmission, when we can move big blocks of energy like Rajasthan, Gujarat, down to the loads around the country. And here Siemens has a very clear bet on the VSC technology, so we understand this is the future because it's power electronic based, and it's also something that has a very important features for the renewable integration. And looking forward to that, and we were in the Sigrid in Paris, we were demonstrating the future of the HVDC networks in DC meshed networks. When we go to the industry side, and the industry is a very important point because one of the most consumers of power, we have also a lot of solutions coming up over there. And we see that one important potential is on the thermal efficiency, how we can use better, the flue gases from the industries like steel, cement, to convert it back to energy. So here in India, we are doing nowadays 5 cement plants with waste heat recovery that we get the hot flue gas and we put on the steam, we produce new steam and we generate more power, reduce 30% of the CO2 emissions. But there are a lot of solutions coming up in terms of heat pumps and the turbo heaters and things like that. And finally, I think the green hydrogen with the power tracks, how we convert green hydrogen to many other feedstocks and solutions along the value chain is very important. Everything underpinned by digitalization and artificial intelligence as the enabler to manage all this complexity that the energy system is becoming. So in terms of technology, I can stay here for 2 hours talking about what's coming up, but I think this gives a little bit of glimpses of what we are doing today and what we are looking forward for the future.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. Mr. Gupta, if I may come to you, as Hartek is one of the, I know you're one of the co-sponsors of today's function. So the EPC industry, of course, must be having a great time in terms of business, given all the growth that is needed and all the build out that is needed. But are there any challenges you all are facing? And is the industry, how is it poised to meet all this capex which is going to happen?
Yeah, thank you, Santosh. Thank you, Santosh, for being me on this panel. As Director Technical of Atig Power, an EPC company in itself, which has already done 10 gigawatts of grid connectivity. This is an EPC company who is doing grids up to 765 kV, doing solar projects up to 500 megawatts, and also doing rooftop solars of 10 megawatt and above capacity. And probably is one of the unique EPC companies who are doing all the 3 things. And I can see that I can be the person who knows the pains and joys of this growth. Joy, as you said, certainly the opportunity. Opportunity is certainly there. It is immense. And if you see that with the present growth of about 8 to 10%, and seeing the investment of 17 trillion, if I am asking for my company 10,000 crores in 2030, it is not even 1%. So, like me, any EPC company has a huge opportunity. That is no doubt. And the cake is so big that everybody can have its own pie, and there are no challenges in that. But yes, when there is an opportunity, there are challenges. And in this EPC company, the challenges are not merely the challenges, but are the risks of losing money also, losing your repute also, and are huge for any EPC company if not tackled well. So risks in the power sector can be divided into 2. One are the risks of the developers. I will not talk about those because my question is targeted towards EPC. The developer risks like project financing, connectivity issues, land aggregates, and curtailment of supply evacuation at times, as it happened in Tamil Nadu last year. So these are the developer challenges and risks which I am not going into. The EPC has its own huge challenges as far as the power sector is concerned. First and the foremost is lack of standardization. As Mr. Venu in the first panel also said, that it is the need of the hour that since we are making grids repeatedly, 200, 220 kV, 400 kV, 765 kV, with the same specification, with the same sort of arrangement. And we have an example that Power Grid is doing so for the entire India on a standardized pattern. Then why not the developers can do the same and have a standard practice so that everything is standardized and the pace of the work and the cost can come down. Why it is not happening? That is the question. Because here in India, we don't want to take the responsibility on ourselves. We want to put responsibility on somebody else. Like all developers don't want to take the responsibility, they will like to have an advisor who takes that responsibility. And that advisor, for his own gains and for his own business line, will suggest you something new. And every time something new is coming, which is hitting the timelines, project timelines, and a huge risk to the EPC who has taken on turnkey basis a project, and something new will come up. So my suggestion through this forum is that either MNRE or CA should come out with the standard guidelines of the equipment and for this renewable sector, so that the entire EPC section is channelized. This will no doubt cut the costs. This will also cut the timelines of the project. Second is ROW issues. Land agreement issues, okay, those are the developers. But when you start the project, local ROW starts. I don't know why the government of India or MNRE come up with a draft agreement where all these local ROW issues can be summed up, as it has been done in many states, that this much of this percentage of manpower will be deployed from the local area, the machinery will be deployed from the local area. Those all things can be the part of a draft agreement which MNRE can agree, and then the entire thing will be very simple, and all time cuts, time delays will not be there. And you know, time is money. If the project is delayed, the first one who dooms is the EPC company, because it gets a huge hit because of price rise. So coming out of it is the price volatility. As the time changes, the prices of the products changes. Here the role of my technology partners like Siemens, Hitachi, GE comes into play, because they are playing in a supply and demand market, right? So they will say that it is a competitive market, demand and supply should prevail, and if they have demand, they will sell at a price they can get. But no, you cannot do this for power sector at least. Power is one of the essential commodities. You can't allow the prices to rise as per the market demand and supply. You will have to have a process that the maximum price of selling has to be capped, and I will request CA to come forward to do that, and they can always enroll EMA for that, to reach at a formula to how to standardize the prices, and the maximum selling price should be capped, and then of course as per the competition they can sell at the maximum price or lesser than that, that will depend on the market. One more challenge which is coming to the EPC companies and the growing EPCs like us is that with the growing these challenges which I have listed, the bigger EPC companies have taken a safe route. What they have started is they are taking the projects at a margin and passing it on to a medium or small scale EPC at a lesser margin. So why government is allowing this? If it is an EPC project, the EPC vendor should be bound to execute that project. And the bigger examples can be there. Tata Power is doing this, L&T is doing this, Gensol is doing this. They are taking projects at higher margin with a PQR where others are not allowed, and then passing on that project to those companies who are otherwise not allowed to bid for that project. Why? That should not be there. No? So government should come out with a regulation that all these MNRE projects are compulsorily to be executed by the EPC partner, EPC firm who has taken the bid. it should execute. If it doesn't have a capacity, it should not bid. Let the others should bid so that they play on their margins and do whatever they want to do. The manpower is a challenge, but you can hardly do that because it is bad luck or good luck of India that everybody in last 10 years was shifted to IT. And people were not interested to do the basic engineering of electrical and all those engineering. So we have shortage of manpower into these accounts. And yes, with the passage of time, that should improve, and lot of manpower is certainly required. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If I may just come to Mr. Rajput. Of course, planning is one of the key functions, especially in a power sector, where you have long gestation, supply chain and project execution timelines, etc. The question which I have is, given that our demand has been growing so fast, it's probably the fastest among big economies, and the power sector has bounced back after COVID at over 8% peak demand growth. Do you think that supply will catch up with demand, let's say in 2027, 2028, given that demand is growing so fast? Or do you think there could be any risks in terms of supply not being able to meet demand, and with all the issues which we discussed?
You are referring to meeting the consumer demands or meeting the demands of the equipment for the power sector?
No, I'm talking about power demand.
Power.
Yeah, gigawatt, megawatt demand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's one question, whether we can meet that or not. Particularly because areas like wind, energy storage, they are coming at a slower pace than what we need, right? So do you think that this is a challenge in the near term? And what could be intermediate solutions?
Good afternoon, everybody. And with due regards, let me express my views. They are slightly different what is going on. The demand can be met in different ways. Right now, we have got the sufficient generating capacity. Thing is how to manage and how to diversify. So what we are losing is that we are not utilizing properly the diversity which is inherent in the power systems. One is the time zone diversity that needs to be utilized for better optimization of the resources and harnessing of the energy resources. Another is the diversity of the load. By diversity of the load, a very simple example could be that we can have a slight rotations in the weekdays off. And another is the working hours could be shifted slightly earlier, and those working hours, which say starting at 9, they could be shifted to 10 and then later. These are the very, very simple measures. And one of the biggest ill of this sector is the losses, level of losses. Not only the commercial losses is another part, that is the administrative measure. There is a scope to reduce the technical losses, particularly more in the distribution system. Distribution system lines are still very lengthy, overloaded also, worn out at many places. Similar is the conditions of the distribution transformers. And distribution transformer get a rewinding at least 5 to 7 times. So one can assess that what will be their efficiency. So when we are talking of the efficiency improvement, energy conservation and other things, these things will come out. Easily the losses could be brought down by 5% in the distribution system. Transmission system not much scope because they are directly well designed and well constructed. So that 5% will contribute in meeting the peak demand as well as in the energy demand. lot many things have happened. 2017 October, there was in Vigyan Bhavan that hydro day or hydro week. I catch hold of one person, the two young boys. They presented some small 10 kilowatt and 150 kilowatt floating solar. So 2017 to now, not much gap. So we have to tap such type of the resources. Lot of floating solars we are now have. Some in service, some are in planning stage, and others could be developed. So that is one way which we have to tap. Another thing is, we have to focus on the rural areas and we have to avoid the congestions in the city areas by creating certain amenities there. Not a very big thing, we have got about 6 lakhs of the villages. And say consider if the 3 lakhs of the villages have say 0.5 to 1 or 1.5 megawatt of the local based. We are talking much about the biomass and that biomass burning into with the coal blending and modifying our thermal machines, that will be a limited capacity. So biomass based plant and other local resources and also the resources of the wind and solar, they can be developed and easily we can arrive at a figure, hypothetical figure of 300 gigawatt. What we are harping on is 500 gigawatt utility scale. Of course, it should come, but for that we need land, and the land at the ground as well as in the say fields or the farmland where our big transmission lines have to pass. It's quite challenging now to lay the transmission lines, huge capacity transmission lines. Right of way problems are there, and forest problems are still more and more challenging. I have had tough experience in many of the states dealing with the forest departments along with our utilities to provide a support to them, but things take lot of time. So whatever we could have developed in time gets delayed right at the generating station and also at the transmission stage. So this simplification is required. Those are the minor things, that is the road and railway crossings. They are requiring for the new lines, the special type of the construction, and also where the lines are there and the highways are coming, they require diversion. That's also a challenge. Another challenge is supply chain and the quality of the material. Again, I am repeating that the resources we have, but the facility or the equipment and the devices to construct them and to be in place, we are lacking. ROW and land issues are there. Then we have to focus on the reactive power also. When I started with the losses, reactive power draw and reactive power mismanagement is one of the biggest cause of the losses also. As far as system stability is concerned, we have to consider the inertia problems also. We have many STATCOM, some claims that there are some grid forming inverters and others which can provide some synthetic inertia, but that can provide only up to a very limited time and in a limited manner. So we have to plan right from now the synchronous condensers also into the system, and that is possible, and we have the synchro condenser manufactured in India itself. So that is one way. Green, ammonia and hydrogen, our learned speakers have touched upon, but I can tell you that in CEA we were few of the officers which started this ammonia and hydrogen thing, and now the MNR is leading this green hydrogen mission. It will take say, but after a gradual path, the journey is long, and as rightly said, there are turbines which can run in green ammonia and with a combination of hydrogen, green ammonia or the natural gas. Natural gas, luckily we don't have. Another thing of meeting the demand of the local area and the snowbound area is development of the geothermal. Whatsoever estimates have been given by the geologists and other agencies responsible for that, they say 10 gigawatt potential of the geothermal is there. And mind you, taking the electricity lines up to such high hilly areas and other things is a challenging task. And if they generate, the grid is at say 11 kV or 32 kV there. So that power cannot come to here, that could be tapped locally. And also for the ancillary heating purposes, say houses, as well as the camps of the military base. So those options are also there. Of course, I am not advocating here geothermal and its telling its advantages. Another big thing which we have done, and we are saying flexibility and all those things and bringing it to 40%. Of course, they are helpful, but we should use it wisely in a mindful manner. Because as you reduce the loading and this particularly below the technical minimum loading and all such things, the efficiency gain is huge, and whatever the critical parameters or the supercritical aspects are there, they are low. So we should select and identify those machines which can run in a manner which will be more suitable for the ramping up and ramping down. Some of the machines naturally should run in a stable fashion. Hydro need to be developed and also the pump storage, but in the pump storage the scope is for increasing the efficiency. I think some 25% less power is obtained, or you can say the 25% power is consumed in raising the water to the upper reservoir. Support of the nuclear we have to take, and small modular reactor as well as Bharat modular reactor which we are talking, that has to be there. One more thing which we are not paying attention is the fault levels of the system. Fault levels are increasing even at 765 kV level. There will be requirement of the 63 kiloampere switch gear and other equipment. That aspect is never talked about in other forums. And another is, if we really want to jump upon and have a commitment to the energy transition and the clean energy, we have to tackle the challenges of the SF6. And we have to find the alternatives for the SF6, because SF6 gas, if it leaks 1 kg into the atmosphere, it has an impact of 25,200 kg of carbon dioxide. That's a well-known established fact, and it remains in the atmosphere for 3,200 years. So that GWP we cannot sustain, and we have to do something. As regard to the ROW and choking of the corridors or overloading of the lines, particularly at 33 kV, 132 and 220 kV, which have become quite old and saturated, it's now time that we think of the reconducting with better quality of the conductors, and those conductors namely known as high performance conductor or high temperature low sag conductors. Few manufacturers now are available in India, and its core is also being manufactured in India under the Make in India initiative. And for the energy security, we have to be self-reliant, not only in terms of the fuel, but also in terms of the equipment. Because everybody is crying down the supply chain issues, and the transformers are not available, or reactors are not available. They are not available because we have not taken care of our own needs. We are just focusing on the end product, the electricity, but its raw material we have not focused. That is the CRGO. And many meetings happens, something happens, but so far it's not been produced. Only 13, for your information, only 13 to 15 mills all over the world, they have almost a monopoly. Some of the countries have said that it is a strategic material, we won't allow any export out of the country. So where we are, because we can have the generation facility in terms of the hydro, in terms of the solar and wind also, but from where we bring the transformers in time, that's an issue. Thermal storage and other type of the storage should also be developed through the R&D in the long run. 2 minutes?
We are almost out of time, sir. Yeah, you can finish it.
2 मिनट के दे दें।
हाँ, sure.
ये नहीं है,
Sure.
जरूरी है बताना।
Sure.
ठीक है, हाँ। तो बाकी चीजें तो ठीक है, क्लीन एनर्जी भी है, हाइड्रो की भी है, रैंकिंग भी है, वो सब चल रहा है, लेकिन एट द कॉस्ट ऑफ एफिशिएंसी चल रहा है।
Sure.
ठीक है। सो थर्मल और जो दूसरे स्टोरेज है उनको भी करना पड़ेगा। E2G we have to think for the future. In case of the EV, we have to do the electrification of the tractors also. Some of the companies have started because it will save lot of diesel and also supply the rural needs. And what I told in the rural that 300 gigawatt of the electricity in the dispersed distributed generation that will avoid long travel of this power or the current over the long transmission lines and the consequent losses. So power supply at the near point of the load will entail you will incur a very little amount of the losses. And the model which I am suggesting is that the DISCOM and the local people could be partner. DISCOM can give ownership to them and O&M to the DISCOM. Because otherwise what the DISCOM will do. So that is the way. Cyber things we have to take care, and also the power quality. Power quality region, but this state pumps and filters are being installed at each and every renewable location and the substation also. Because lot of harmonics comes in the system and they also carry losses and damage to the machines. Because our machines are designed only for stable supply. So, sir talked about the standards and the competitiveness. Standardization brings competitiveness. That is true. We are following, and we from CE also working with BIS in a coordinated manner to develop the standards. But we need that from the industry side and from the audience side also, or the participants, that what are the equipments or the devices or anything we need which has to be produced in India, which has to be manufactured in India, and which are the things on which we have to develop our own standards. Because in international world also, on some of the components and the materials, the standards are not there. India has taken a lead, and there are some, I am not going to count. And as you told the planning, I am coming the last on the planning. When we have all these inputs, means our capability and our challenges and our requirement, then we can have the planning. We need to have the sophisticated software and the engineers and the personnel to work on those software and analyze those data. So that's the requirement, and we cannot forget the R&D as well as the proper O&M. And one more thing, the safety, and particularly the fires related to the electrical causes. So it need to be arrested and addressed. Otherwise, each one of the fire, even in a transformer or a distribution transformer, one can imagine how much CO2 will be going and how much energy will lose, how much capacity will be produced.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sorry, I took more time, but
Yeah,
I
no
thought
problem.
this thing should be said.
Thank you very much for your valuable points and sharing the experiences. We have come to the end. I'm so sorry we don't have time for questions. So I hand it over back to the organizers. Thank you.